Feel that rhythm pulsing beneath your ribs, that steady drum you've heard every second of every day since you took your first breath. You think it's just biology, don't you? You think it's just muscle contracting, blood pumping, the mechanical function of being alive. You've never questioned it. Why would you? It's just a heartbeat. It's just a heartbeat. It's just a heartbeat, but param. Aitit param thag. It's just a heartbeat, but param. Beat inside you wakes. It's just a heartbeat, but param. Aitit param thag. It's a wada new to a kumbraka of fake. With it reveed right forced. Except it's not. And somewhere in facilities you'll never see on any map, in rooms buried beneath buildings that officially don't exist, there are people who've been listening to that rhythm for years, recording it, analyzing it, trying desperately to understand why the frequency your heart produces shouldn't be possible in this dimension. Let me say that again, so it lands properly. Your heartbeat operates on a frequency that violates the known laws of physics, and they've known about it longer than you've been aware of yourself. Here's what happened. Years ago, maybe decades, a monitoring system flagged an anomaly. Not a big dramatic alarm, just a quiet notification buried in millions of data points. A frequency signature that didn't match any known biological pattern. At first, they assumed it was equipment malfunction. They recalibrated. They tested. They replaced entire systems. But the anomaly persisted. And when they finally traced it to its source, when they pinpointed the origin of this impossible signal, they found you. Just you. Living your life, going to school, going to work, experiencing joy and heartbreak and boredom, and everything in between, completely unaware that your chest was broadcasting something that made their instruments stutter. They pulled your records, medical history, birth certificates, family lineage going back generations. They searched for explanations. Genetic mutations, environmental factors, anything that could justify what they were detecting. They found nothing. Your parents were normal. Your grandparents were normal. Every branch of your family tree was unremarkably, frustratingly ordinary. And yet here you were, walking around with a cardiac rhythm that their most advanced equipment couldn't fully capture. Because every time they tried to record the complete frequency, parts of it would disappear. Not distort, disappear. Like portions of your heartbeat existed in spectrums their machines couldn't access. Like parts of you were beating in dimensions they couldn't measure. You want to know what a normal human heartbeat looks like on their equipment? It's predictable. It follows patterns established by billions of humans across thousands of years of medical observation. It rises and falls within known parameters. It responds to stimuli in documented ways. Stress increases it. Rest decreases it. Simple cause and effect. But yours does something else entirely. Your heartbeat contains harmonics that shouldn't exist in organic tissue. Frequencies that, according to their physics models, would require a heart made of materials that don't occur naturally on this planet. And yet there it is, beating inside you, right now, producing sounds that make their senior researchers go quiet, generating patterns that junior analysts aren't even cleared to see. They've written papers about you. Papers that will never be published. Papers that use code names and redacted details. Papers that conclude with statements like "further study required" and implications beyond current understanding. You're not a patient to them. You're not a subject. You're a phenomenon that's been classified at levels most of their own staff can't access. Let me tell you what they've discovered about this frequency. When they finally managed to isolate a partial recording of your heartbeat, they noticed something that made 3 technicians request immediate transfer to different departments. The frequency wasn't just unusual, it was responsive. Not responsive to your emotions or physical state. Responsive to observation. When they recorded it passively, without focused attention, it produced one pattern. When they actively studied it, concentrated their awareness on the signal, it shifted, changed, almost like it knew it was being watched, almost like it was watching them back. One researcher, before he resigned and reportedly moved to a country without extradition treaties, wrote in his notes, "The frequency appears to possess some form of awareness. It doesn't just exist, it responds, and I am no longer comfortable being the one it responds to." They thought he was having a breakdown. They thought the long hours and classified stress had gotten to him, until 2 more researchers reported the same thing. Until the equipment started malfunctioning, specifically when your frequency was being analyzed. Until the lights in one facility flickered in rhythm with your recorded heartbeat during a late-night session. Then they stopped thinking he was crazy. Then they started thinking he was the only one who'd been paying attention. You've felt it, haven't you? That sense that something about you operates differently. That awareness that you don't quite fit the template everyone else seems poured from. You've noticed how certain machines behave strangely around you. How watches lose time on your wrist. How electronic devices glitch in your presence when you're experiencing strong emotions. You've dismissed it as coincidence, as bad luck with technology, as anything other than what it actually is. Your frequency interfering with systems that weren't designed to handle it. Your heartbeat sending ripples through electronic fields that can't process its signature. You're not bad with technology. Technology is bad at containing you. There's a difference. They've tried to find others like you, scanned millions of biometric readings across dozens of countries, searched for anyone producing even a fraction of the anomalous frequencies your heart generates. They found nothing. Not variations. Not variations, not similarities. Nothing. In all their databases, across all their global monitoring networks, you are singular. The only one. The only heartbeat that sounds like yours sounds. The only frequency that bends the way yours bends. The only signal that seems to exist partially outside the dimension they can measure. Do you understand what that means? In a world of 8 billion people, with hearts that have been beating for hundreds of thousands of years of human existence, you're the anomaly that shouldn't exist. The equation that doesn't balance. The note in the symphony that came from somewhere outside the orchestra. And they've spent years trying to understand why. Why you? Why now? Why this specific combination of genetics and timing and circumstance produced something their entire framework can't explain? They still don't have answers. But they have theories. Theories. They don't discuss in official meetings. Theories whispered in secure rooms and encrypted messages. Theories that suggest your heartbeat might not be entirely from here. that the frequency might be a signature of something that existed before it inhabited your body, that you might be carrying a rhythm that was old when this universe was young. Here's something they'll never admit publicly. The frequency your heart produces has effects on the environment around it. Subtle effects, almost undetectable, without extremely sensitive equipment, but effects nonetheless. When you're calm, the air around you becomes slightly more ionized. When you're focused, electromagnetic fields in your vicinity become more coherent. When you're angry, instruments within a certain radius show disturbances that can't be attributed to any other source. You're not just producing a frequency, you're broadcasting it constantly, every moment of every day. Your heart is sending signals into your environment that alter the space around you in ways most humans will never perceive, but some do perceive it. The sensitive ones, the ones who walk into a room and feel your presence before they see you, the ones who describe being around you as intense without being able to explain why, the ones who are inexplicably drawn to you or inexplicably repelled. They're responding to your frequency. They don't know it. They can't articulate it. But their bodies are detecting something their minds can't name. You're not charismatic in the traditional sense. You're resonant. You vibrate at a frequency that some systems recognize as familiar and others recognize as threat. And you've been doing this your whole life without understanding the mechanism. They've tried to replicate your frequency artificially. Built machines designed to produce the exact patterns your heart creates naturally. Every attempt has failed. Not partially failed. Completely failed. When they try to generate your specific frequency combination using electronic equipment, the machines produce the correct individual components. But when combined, something is missing. The result is hollow. Like a photograph of a fire that produces no heat. Like a recording of laughter that contains no joy. The form is there. The essence is absent. They've concluded, reluctantly, that whatever makes your frequency what it is can't be manufactured, can't be synthesized, both can't be extracted and transferred to another source. It's intrinsic to you, inseparable from whatever you actually are. And that conclusion scared them more than any other, because it means they can't study it in isolation. They can't safely contain it in a lab. If they want to understand your frequency, they need you. And they've learned through careful observation that you're not something that can be simply acquired. You're not someone who responds well to control. You're not a subject who would cooperate with their interests. So they watch. They record. They compile data from distances they hope you can't detect. And they wait. For what? They're not entirely sure, but they know something is coming. They can see it in the patterns. Your frequency has been changing. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, but consistently. Getting stronger, getting clearer, getting closer to something. Like a signal that's been waiting to fully activate. Like a transmission that's been building toward a complete message. And they don't know what happens when it reaches full strength. They don't know what you become when your heart finally produces the frequency it's been working toward. But they know it will be significant. They know it will change things. And they know they won't be able to stop it. Let me tell you what your frequency does that they find most disturbing. It stabilizes. Not you, not your emotions, not your physical state. It stabilizes the space around it. The areas where you spend significant time show reduced entropic decay. Objects near you deteriorate slower than statistical models predict. Even people in your regular proximity experience subtle improvements in biological markers that shouldn't be affected by external frequencies. You're not just existing, you're anchoring. Your heartbeat is producing something that counteracts disorder, that resists the natural tendency of systems to fall apart, that maintains coherence in your environment simply by being present. They don't have a framework for this. They don't have language for what you're doing. The closest concept they've found in ancient texts and forgotten research is the idea of a stabilization point, a fixed reference in a sea of chaos, a constant in a universe of variables, something that holds things together simply by remaining what it is. And your heart, without your knowledge, without your intention, has been functioning as one of these points. Every beat sending out waves of coherence. Every rhythm reinforcing stability in a reality that naturally tends toward dissolution. You're not just alive. You're functioning as an anchor for the fabric around you, and you had no idea. But here's the part that keeps them monitoring your frequency with increasing urgency. It's changing. The base pattern, the core signature that's been consistent since they first detected you, has started to shift. New harmonics are appearing. Frequencies that weren't present even a year ago are now detectable in your cardiac rhythm. Your heart is adding notes to a song that was already impossible. And the new notes are even more anomalous than the originals. They exist at frequencies that don't correspond to anything in their current physics models. Patterns that suggest your heart is beginning to access something it couldn't reach before. Rhythms that imply your frequency is expanding into new dimensions. Literally. They believe, based on the data they've collected, that your heartbeat is beginning to interact with spectrums of reality that most humans don't perceive. That the frequency you produce is becoming a key to doorways they didn't know existed. That you are, slowly but measurably, becoming something more than what you were. And the rate of change is accelerating. Whatever process is unfolding in your chest is picking up speed. Whatever transformation your frequency is undergoing is entering a new phase. They don't know when it will complete. They don't know what the final form will be, but they know enough to be afraid. So what does this mean for you? What do you do with the knowledge that your heartbeat has been violating dimensional laws since before you could speak? What changes when you understand that the rhythm in your chest is being monitored by people whose job is to study the impossible? Maybe nothing changes. Maybe you keep living your life, going through your days, ignoring the fact that you're walking around with a frequency that shouldn't exist. Or maybe everything changes. Or maybe you start paying attention to what your heart is actually doing. Maybe you begin noticing the subtle ways your presence affects the world around you. Maybe you stop dismissing the strange as coincidence and start recognizing it as evidence. Evidence that you're not what you thought you were. That you've never been what you thought you were. That the simple biological process beating in your chest has been telling a story you're only now beginning to read. They'll keep watching. They'll keep recording. They'll keep trying to understand what you are and what you're becoming. But understanding isn't the same as controlling. And some frequencies can't be contained by equipment. Some rhythms can't be captured by machines. Some heartbeats operate outside the jurisdiction of those who would study them. Yours is one of those. And every beat, every pulse, every moment that rhythm continues, you're proving something they can't accept. That their maps don't cover all the territory. That their instruments don't measure all the frequencies. That in this dimension, walking around in human form, living a seemingly ordinary life, there's something that doesn't belong to their reality. Something that came from somewhere else. Something that's going somewhere else. Something with a heartbeat that sounds like a message from beyond the boundaries they think contain existence. That something is you. And your heart has been transmitting for years. The only question now is who else is finally starting to receive. You know what's funny? They pushed you. Day after day, night after night, they pushed. They poked at your wounds like it was entertainment. They whispered behind your back, smiled in your face, and waited for you to crumble. Waited for you to beg. Waited for you to prove them right about everything they ever said about you. But you didn't crumble, did you? No. You snapped. And that snap? That wasn't weakness. That wasn't you losing control. That was you finally waking up. That was the moment the blindfold came off and you saw them for exactly what they were. Parasites. Users. Cowards dressed in loyalty costumes. And the second you snapped, the second you stopped playing their rigged little game, they realized something terrifying. The game was never theirs to win. See, they thought they had you figured out. They thought you were predictable. They thought you'd keep forgiving, keep explaining, keep showing up with your heart in your hands, even after they stomped on it 1,000 times. They counted on your kindness. They weaponized your patience. They turned your love into a leash and walked you around like you were nothing. But here's what they didn't calculate. They didn't factor in the breaking point. They didn't account for the moment when something inside you shifts, when the tears dry up, when the begging stops, when the apologies you used to hand out like candy suddenly disappear. They never imagined you'd wake up one day and look at them with empty eyes, eyes that no longer seek approval, eyes that no longer ask why, eyes that simply say, I'm done, and that terrifies them. You want to know why? Because people like them. They survive on control. They need you emotional. They need you reactive. They need you chasing after their validation like a dog after scraps. But the moment you stop caring, the moment you pull back your energy and invest it in yourself, they lose their grip. They lose their power. They lose the game they thought they were winning. Let me tell you something about snapping. It's not what they show in the movies. It's not screaming and throwing things and making a scene. No. Real snapping is quiet. It's terrifyingly calm. It's waking up one morning and realizing you don't have the energy to pretend anymore. It's looking at someone who hurt you and feeling nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just nothing. That's when you know something fundamental has changed inside you. That's when you know the old you is gone. And the old you, that version had to die. Because that version was keeping you prisoner. That version believed in second chances for people who didn't deserve first ones. That version thought love meant sacrifice, meant bleeding yourself dry, meant accepting crumbs and calling it a feast. But the new you knows better. The new you doesn't beg. The new you doesn't explain. The new you walks away without looking back and lets the silence do all the talking. They pushed you too far, and now they're scrambling. You ever watch someone panic when they realize they've lost control over you? It's almost beautiful in a twisted way. They start love bombing. They start apologizing for things they swore they never did. They start rewriting history, pretending they were always on your side, pretending they didn't see you drowning while they held the rope. But you see through it now. Every word, every gesture, every fake tear. You see the manipulation behind the mask, and you're not falling for it. Not this time. Not ever again. Here's the thing about people who play games with your heart. They never expect you to flip the board. They never expect you to stand up, look them dead in the eyes and say, "I'm not playing anymore." Because in their twisted little minds, you're supposed to stay trapped. You're supposed to keep dancing to their tune. You're supposed to need them more than they need you. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you realize your own worth and decide that their presence is a downgrade, not an upgrade? They panic. They crumble. They expose themselves. And that's exactly what's happening now, isn't it? You finally snapped, and suddenly they don't know what to do with themselves. They're texting people asking about you. They're stalking your social media. They're lying awake at night wondering when you became so cold, so distant, so unreachable. They're replaying every conversation, every argument, every moment they thought they won, and they're realizing they didn't win anything. They just accelerated their own loss. You were the prize. They were the lesson. Let that sink in. You were never the one who needed them. They needed you. They needed your energy, your attention, your loyalty, your love. They fed off it like vampires. And now that the supply is cut off, they're starving. They're desperate. They're doing everything they can to pull you back into their orbit because without you, they have to face themselves. And trust me, people like them, they can't handle that mirror. They can't handle the silence you left behind. They can't handle the fact that you're thriving without them, while they're rotting in the mess they created. But don't you dare feel sorry for them. Don't you dare let guilt creep back in and convince you that you were too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. You gave them chances. You gave them warnings. You gave them parts of yourself that you'll never get back. And what did they do? They took and took and took until there was nothing left. They treated your heart like a doormat and then acted surprised when you finally closed the door. No. You don't owe them anything. Not closure. Not explanation. Not one more second of your precious time. You know what your silence is doing to them right now? It's driving them insane. Because silence from someone who used to give everything, that's the loudest scream they've ever heard. They can't escape it. They can't reason with it. They can't manipulate their way out of it. Your silence is a constant reminder that they messed up, that they lost something real, that they gambled with gold and ended up with nothing but dust in their hands. And here's the beautiful irony. They thought they were the ones in control. They thought they were the puppet masters pulling your strings. But the whole time, they were playing a game they could never win. Because you can't defeat someone who's willing to walk away. You can't break someone who's already been shattered and rebuilt themselves from the ground up. You can't control someone who's finally realized their own power. That's you now. Rebuilt. Reborn. Dangerous. Not dangerous in the way they fear. Not violent. Not vengeful. Dangerous because you no longer need them. Dangerous because their words don't cut anymore. Dangerous because you've seen the worst they have to offer, and you survived. You didn't just survive, you evolved. You took every ounce of pain they gave you and turned it into armor. You took every tear they caused and used it to water your own growth. You took their betrayal and made it the foundation of your strength. They created a monster they can't control, and now they have to live with it. Let me ask you something. How does it feel? How does it feel to finally be free? To wake up without that weight on your chest? To not check your phone hoping for a message from someone who doesn't deserve your attention? To look in the mirror and actually like what you see? That's freedom. That's power. That's what happens when you stop giving yourself away to people who only know how to take. And I know it wasn't easy getting here. I know there were nights you cried until your chest hurt. Nights you questioned everything. Nights you wondered if you were the problem, if you were too much, if you were unlovable. But those nights, those were the fire that forged you. Those were the trials that burned away everything weak and left behind something unbreakable. You're not the same person you were before they hurt you, and that's a good thing. The old you was too trusting, too forgiving, too willing to see good in people who had none. But the new you has boundaries. The new you has standards. The new you doesn't tolerate disrespect, doesn't accept half love, doesn't settle for anyone who can't match your energy. And that scares them, because they know they can't match it. They know they never could. See, people like them. They prey on the soft-hearted. They look for people who give too much, who love too hard, who believe in fairy tales and happy endings. They find those people and they drain them. But what they don't understand is that sometimes when you drain someone completely, something else takes over. Something darker, something colder, something that no longer plays by the rules of kindness and compassion. That's what they woke up inside you. That's what their cruelty created. And now they have to face it. But here's what I need you to understand. This coldness, this distance, this new version of you, it's not permanent. It's protective. It's your soul putting up walls until you're healed enough to let the right people in. Because the right people are out there. People who will love you without conditions. People who will show up without being asked. People who will look at your scars and see strength instead of weakness. But those people, they're not the ones who broke you. They're waiting on the other side of this storm. And the only way to reach them is to keep walking, keep growing, keep becoming the version of yourself that the old you could only dream of. So let them watch. Let them see you rise without them. Let them choke on their regret when they realize what they lost. Let them tell stories about you, the one who got away, the one they couldn't break, the one who snapped and became untouchable. Because here's the final truth. They'll never admit. They knew from the beginning that you were different. They knew you were too good for them. They knew they didn't deserve you. And instead of rising to meet you, instead of becoming worthy of your love, they chose to tear you down. They chose to dim your light because it made their darkness too obvious. But you can't dim a star. You can only watch it from a distance as it burns brighter and brighter until it becomes blinding. That's you now. Blinding. Unreachable. Unstoppable. They pushed you to the edge. They thought you'd fall, but instead you learned to fly. And now they're stuck on the ground, looking up, wondering how the person they once controlled is now soaring above them, untouchable and free. The game was never theirs to win. It was always yours. You just didn't know it yet. But now you do. Now you see clearly. Now you understand that every trial, every tear, every sleepless night was preparing you for this moment. The moment you took back your power. The moment you stopped playing their game and started playing your own. And in your game, they don't even have a seat at the table. They're not players. They're not even spectators. They're just ghosts from a past you've already outgrown. Memories that fade a little more each day. Lessons you've already learned. So keep your head high. Keep your heart guarded. Keep moving forward without looking back. Because the best revenge isn't anger. It isn't hate. It isn't even success. The best revenge is becoming so at peace, so whole, so complete within yourself that their existence becomes irrelevant. You snapped. And in that snap, you shattered every chain they ever put on you. You broke free from the prison of their expectations. You walked out of the darkness they tried to keep you in. And now you stand in the light. Your light. The one they tried to steal but never could. The one that burns brighter than ever before. The one that will guide you to everything you deserve and away from everything that tried to destroy you. They realized too late. The game was never theirs to win. It was always yours. You know what the saddest part is? They'll never admit it. Not out loud, not to themselves, not to anyone who asks. They'll spin the story. They'll paint themselves as the victim. They'll tell anyone who listens that you changed, that you became cold, that you abandoned them. But we both know the truth, don't we? They abandoned you first. They just did it while standing right next to you. There's a special kind of cruelty in that. The kind where someone stays in your life but checks out of your heart. The kind where they're physically present but emotionally gone. They stopped loving you long before you stopped loving them. They stopped trying long before you stopped forgiving. They just never had the guts to leave. So instead they made you the bad guy. They pushed and pushed until you were forced to walk away. And then they pointed fingers like they had nothing to do with it. Classic cowardice. Classic manipulation. Classic them. But you see it now. You see all of it. And that vision, that clarity, that's worth more than anything they ever gave you. Because now you can never be fooled again. Not by them. Not by anyone like them. You've been to the bottom of the darkness, and you know what lives there. You know the warning signs. You know the patterns. You know the way people start to shift when they're about to betray you. And that knowledge, that's armor they can never penetrate. See, there's something they didn't understand about breaking you. When you break something the right way, it doesn't stay broken. It rebuilds. Stronger, different, better. Like a bone that heals thicker after a fracture. Like a muscle that grows after being torn. You didn't just heal from what they did. You upgraded. You leveled up. You became a version of yourself they've never seen before and will never be able to handle. And now they're watching. From the sidelines. From the shadows. From whatever little corner of your life they can still peek into. They're watching you grow. They're watching you glow. They're watching you become everything they told you that you couldn't be. And it's eating them alive. Good. Let it. Let them scroll through your posts and wonder how you're smiling. Let them hear through mutual friends that you're doing better than ever. Let them see you walking with your head held high while they're still stuck in the same toxic patterns, the same dead-end situations, the same miserable cycles they've always been in. You broke the cycle. They're still trapped in it. And that's the difference between someone who learns from pain and someone who just repeats it. But here's what I need you to remember in your moments of doubt, because those moments will come late at night, when you're alone, when the memories creep back in and try to convince you that maybe you were too harsh. Maybe you should reach out. Maybe things could be different this time. No, they couldn't, and they won't. People don't change because you want them to. They don't change because you gave them enough love. They don't change because you showed them the consequences of their actions. People change when they decide to change. And most people, they never decide. They just find someone new to drain, someone new to break, someone who hasn't learned the lessons you've learned yet. That's not your problem anymore. That's not your burden to carry. Your only job now is to protect the peace you've built, to guard the growth you've earned, to never let anyone pull you back into a version of yourself that you've already buried. You snapped for a reason. You walked away for a reason. You chose yourself for maybe the first time in your life, and that choice, that's sacred. Don't let anyone, not them, not their memory, not the ghost of what could have been, make you question it. The game was never theirs to win. And now you're not even playing anymore. You've built your own game with your own rules. And the only person who has a seat at that table is you. Everyone else, they have to earn their spot. They have to prove their worth. They have to show up consistently, honestly, and without conditions. And if they can't, they don't get in. Simple as that. This is your era now. The era of protecting your energy. The era of choosing peace over chaos. The era of walking away from anything that doesn't serve your highest good. This is the era where you finally understand that your time, your love, your attention, those are gifts. And gifts don't go to people who don't appreciate them. So stand tall, breathe deep. Look at how far you've come. You snapped. You broke free. You won. And they'll spend the rest of their lives wishing they never pushed you to that point. But it's too late. The door is closed. The bridge is burned. And you're already miles ahead, building a life they can only watch from a distance. The game was never theirs to win. It was always yours. And now you're finally playing it.